Flosstube. For those who are new and are seeing me for the first time, nice to meet you. My name is Saho. My channel name is Saho Dream Stitch. I'm also on Instagram as Saho Dream Stitch. I live in Osaka, Japan. I grew up in the United States in the Midwest. I loved cross-stitching as a little girl and I love it still, but now I am expanding into Hardanger and whitework and other needlecraft. So in this channel, I will be talking about my cross-stitching, my other needlework, and sometimes I insert little segments that speak about the Japanese culture or something Japanese specific that I find interesting in my daily living. So, for those who have seen my videos before, where have I been? Nowhere. Just life. We have had a lot of heavy rain, typhoons that would pass right over the Japanese island instead of kind of skirting by. We had little earthquakes in Osaka area where I live, and we had a pretty big earthquake in Hokkaido, and rain, typhoon, and earthquake is a very bad combination because there will be landslides, and many Japanese traditional houses are made of wood, so they don't hold up to that very much. Unfortunately, some people lost their houses, and well, really there were some casualties and injuries. For me, fortunately, nothing serious as a direct impact of the earthquake or the typhoon. With the typhoon, we lost power for about a day. With power, we lost water, which was not nice, but then again, it cleared up pretty quickly. But what kind of threw me off the most was that trains stop when it rains heavily or typhoon comes or there's too much wind. So when trains stop, we either are told to stay home or go home, and those heavy rains and typhoons, we were usually told to go home for the afternoon, and that kind of impacted my work schedule because I tend to work with overseas colleagues, and the afternoon was the time that we could have a meeting. It would be morning their time and afternoon our time. So that was kind of distracting, and I was traveling a lot from spring to summer. So basically, a lot of changes to my daily routine. However, I have been stitching, so I will, in this video, I will show my recent finishes as I can remember them, and talk a little bit about some stitching I have been doing for a dear friend of mine. Now, the first finish, I don't remember if I showed this finished or close to finished, but here it is, finished. This is Lizzie Kate, of course, Promise Me, no need for explanation. I used the DMC threads for the lettering, and I just picked the threads out of my stash, the Gentle Arts or crescent colors that I thought would be pretty and was close to the picture that was on the chart. So here it is. I haven't gotten around to framing it, unfortunately, but I like it. It was really enjoyable to stitch, but I did mess up a lot. I had not stitched a Lizzie Kate before this, and stitching letters, I found, yeah, you need a knack for those. And another finish that I had that was a whip in my previous video is this one. This is Silver Moon Tea by MIRABILIA. So this is not a finish yet. I finished all the stitching. It's waiting for the beads. And I have been waiting for an opportunity to really sit down and do all the beads, because this all around the moon, it's beads. And the girl has a lot of beads on her head and I think around her arms. And yes, I did switch the bottom lettering around. I think it said Earl Grey in the original chart. Somebody in Stitch Mania kindly informed me it must have come from an advertisement, or Nora got the inspiration for this from an old advertisement for tea. But I like Assam tea, milk tea, better than Earl Grey, so I changed it. So there is my Silver Moon tea. I'm really excited it's finished. It'll be very pretty with the beads. Now, I think if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I was doing a lot of cross-stitching and finishing around May. From the time period of March to May, perhaps, that I was not really talking about a lot on my Flosstube videos. I was doing some model stitching for Arlene Cohen, WorksByABC. She has a YouTube channel. She started her YouTube channel a little more than a year ago. Now she has an Etsy shop full of wonderful designs of cross-stitch patterns and now blackwork. Now I think a lot of you got to meet Arlene in person in the retreat that she planned, which is wonderful. I was jealous, but I wanted, while I was stitching and making Flosstube videos, I was sort of thinking over how I should talk about this, and I could not find the right way to say them at that time. I wanted to wait until Arlene received them and acknowledged them as stitch models, because until she did that, they would just be a finish by me. So I did offer to do that for her. I came up with the idea because she said she was designing faster than she could ever stitch the models for. I knew I would like her patterns and will be stitching some of them anyway. So I approached her by email and just said, would it would please me if I could do some model stitching for you. Would you like that? And she said yes, and I stitched the first piece, which was the Birds and the Bees of 1557. So I think you did see my progress over the months in my YouTube videos, and after that I stitched some more. And at first I just wanted to stitch one or two pieces to see how it would go and how she would like it and all that. But when I heard about the retreat and that StitchCon where she would be doing a trunk show, I got more enthusiastic with the idea of people actually seeing my stitching and possibly enjoying my stitching, because usually when I cross stitch, they get finished, they usually get rolled away. Some of them do end up being framed or given away, but no one else but myself would be enjoying them, which I thought would be a shame. So I did that, and I stitched several of her patterns, including the flowers from 1650, Lady Evelyn's Filet lace. I did this one, but you probably don't recognize it right off because I did it with white thread on navy Lugana 1/1. It was, I think, about this big, and she turned it into a really pretty cushion. And other, I think one or two, the vase piece that was the companion piece to the Birds and the Bees of 1557. And she received them and she finished them, FFO'd them. Some she framed, some she finished them into cubes and whatnot. And I really liked them, and I hope you did too if you had a chance to see them at the retreat or StitchCon. And I will now show you a whip. Hold on. Okay, sorry. So now I'm working on Margaretha's flower jugs. This is one of her new patterns, and I started out stitching because this is quite, it's a pretty big piece, especially because I chose to do it on 28 count. So the I'm a bullseye starter. I started around the middle of this one with this flower, and right off I sort of had a problem. I was following her chart colors because for this piece she chose DMC colors specifically because they were called antique mauve or antique blue or antique violet, something with antique. But I found that when I was working on it, the threads that were called for, if you could see, 3802 and 315, they look basically the same when they're stitched. And which was a shame because they're both really pretty colors, and I emailed to Arlene, asked, sent her a picture and asked if she had any better choices for the threads, and she said, have you tried 3726. So this color for these petals here. So I took out the 315 and stitched the 3726, and now it looks nicer. So if any of you have bought this Margaretha's flower jugs, if are following the chart recommended colors and found that this flower was not did not have as much variety, you could try 3726 in place of 315, and that would work better. And Arlene is wonderful like that, and she really appreciates your input. That would help her develop better patterns in future. Now, I would like to keep this video short and sweet because I want to be putting out more of them. So, oh, there was one more finish that I really wanted to share of the work that was still in progress when I was making YouTube videos, is this one. It's a bead piece, and I have totally blanked out on what it was called, so I will edit it in later. Whew. Actually, I had been wanting to make more YouTube videos for a while meaning for the past 6 months, but for some reason I could not get myself to do it. And today, when I was getting ready to leave for work, I just told myself that I'm going to make a YouTube video when I get home, and I can edit it tomorrow, but I am going to do it however disoriented I may sound, and I am not going to re-record them because that would sort of discourage me. So sorry for the rambling. I promise I will do better next time. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about my needlework classes and the assignments that I did. A classmate in my needlework class actually watched my Flosstube video, and she asked me if I wore heavier makeup when I did the videos. I don't actually. It's probably the lighting, because I don't want the video to be too dark. But anyway, I mean, if you're an ordinary person, makeup can only go so far. But here is a Hardanger piece I did for my needlework class. It's kind of big. It's stitched on 20 count cork. And what's unique about this piece is that usually when you do Hardanger on 20 count cork, you use a pearl cotton number 5 for the outside and number 8 for the needle weaving. But for this piece, you use pearl cotton number 8 for everything, so it kind of gives it a delicate look. So here you go. And here is a full thread work piece that I finished last week. So these are worked using threads that are called cotton à broder. And these are delicate threads, and the fabric here is Lugano. The most difficult thing about this piece was the corners. I don't sew. So this was the most difficult part for me, not the embroidery. Oh, and when I start this piece, I'm supposed to do the guide like you would do in Hardanger, and the counting was the least favorite part for me. And before I forget to share, here is another Hardanger that was worked. I think it was a whip when I was doing my previous videos. This is Hardanger too, except the edges are worked in blackened stitching, and for these flowers, the lacy edge work is sort of adapted to look like flower petals. And I got the chart for these, this one online by Hardanger Carpacar. I will be linking her below. I will be linking all the names of the works I mentioned below in the description box. And I have just rambled for 25 minutes. I think I will be calling it a night, and I will be back soon, hopefully, with more on my whips and maybe a Japanese segment. It was so good to see you all again, and hope to see you soon. Bye for now.